Cameramen have sat down.
Gràcies. Edgar?
Hola, Luis. Bona tarda, Edgar Fornós de Barça TV. M'agradaria saber com afronteu aquest partit.
And the first question is about tomorrow's game against Celta, always a problematic opponent.
Bon dia.
Good morning.
Pues sí.
Well, yes, they have made things difficult for us.
Creo que es el único rival que nos ha ganado.
I think it's the only team that's beaten us twice since I've been manager.
La primera vuelta de manera
They
clara.
did that very clearly earlier this season.
Bueno, significa que es un rival peligroso.
That means they're a difficult opponent, but an attractive opponent. One of the teams I most enjoy playing against and watching on television. They play daring football, they put pressure high up the pitch, they dominate every aspect of the game, although they are missing some important players, but the basic idea is still there. A lot of that is thanks to their manager, who's got very clear ideas about possession football. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game, which is going to be very difficult for us. Asking about Leo Messi's condition. Yes. Yes, he can play tomorrow.
Jordi Borda, en directe per Catalunya Informació. Et volia preguntar per quin creus, des del teu punt de vista, que és el secret de l'èxit del Celta.
What do you think is the secret of Celta's success?
Que heu tingut amb vosaltres, això que dius que són els únics que han estat capaços de guanyar-vos dos cops.
And why is it they are the only team that's beaten you twice, and whether their injuries are as important as you said? Well, those absences have been there for several months, and they're still a difficult team. They're still very intense. We saw that in the semi-final of the Cup. Regardless of the first leg result, they still made things difficult for Sevilla. They're a team that always wants to hold onto the possession, and they make it difficult for you both in attack and in defence. There's no single clear reason for that. It's the sum of many factors, and factors that are being done very well, from scouting through to the club's idea of bringing in young talent, working on the youth programme, and also having a manager who's very clear about the kind of football he wants from his team. Yes, I say one of the most exciting opponents in the league. After the Celta game, there are 2 games on the road. How important are these games? I'm just thinking about Celta for now. The others aren't the immediate future. The Celta game is what I care about. We know what the fixture list is. We have games every 3 days. Not much rest. I'm happy with the way things have gone until now. Happy with the way we're preparing on a day-to-day basis, and that's how we intend to keep doing things until the end of the season.
Hola Luis, aquí a tu izquierda, Joan Tejedor para la cadena SER. En la primera vuelta, en la previa antes de ir a Vigo, decías que si teníais un nivel regular.
Before the trip to Vigo earlier this season,
en el partido de ida fue como fue. Mañana, ¿sostendrías la misma frase o habiendo habido partidos entre semana, el partido que tuvo contra el Sevilla?
You're talking about the game before Celta and how important it was, and whether you would maintain the same views for this game. Look, all I can say is that Celta are going to be more intense than we are. They're going to stay faithful to their footballing ideas. They've always been so since I was there myself. You know that it's going to be a difficult game. Both the games when they beat us here in the league and then away, it's difficult for that to happen again. We were very much the better side the day we lost at home. We had, I think, 3 or 4 balls hit the post. So we were very unfortunate that day. But when teams play against us, they need to be strong in defence and stop us from taking our chances. That happened. The game earlier this season was different. They very much deserved to win the game. They totally outpowered us. But whatever, it's going to be a difficult game tomorrow, that's for sure.
Juan Arias, Cadena COPE. Respecto a la sede de la final de la Copa del Rey.
Asking about the venue for the Copa del Rey final.
De rivalidad deportiva, de lo que puede sentir, por ejemplo, un seguidor del Real Madrid si el Barça lo celebra en el Bernabéu.
And talking about if you can understand why perhaps Madrid are averse to the title being celebrated there. I mean, what would you think if the game was played in the Molinón, where Sporting Gijón play? Look, all I care about the cup final is that we're playing in it. The other team is Sevilla, very difficult opponent. But everything else, that's your world. You're going to be talking about this a lot until the end of the season or until the venue is decided. But I've already said what I want to say on that matter.
Luis, aquí, Carlos Escolán de Radio Marca, buenas tardes. Te pregunto por Leo Messi y también por
asking about Leo Messi, also Arda Turan, who's got some fitness problems with his foot. Will both players be able to play 90 minutes tomorrow? They're both okay. Arda took a knock, which was a knock-on for something that happened in the warm-up against Valencia. There was no point risking him. It's not an injury, but it's something that there was no point taking any risks over. But no, they're both okay.
Luis, aquí, Quim Robert de TV3. Et volia preguntar fins a quin punt et sents una mica l'iniciador d'aquest model del Celta.
To what extent do you feel that you were the man that started everything at Celta?
Cap a aquest model i que Berizzo ha continuat amb bon joc, amb espectacle.
And it has continued since you left. But how much was that your own influence? No, not really my influence, because I think Sergio was there before in a difficult situation with very few resources, but similar footballing ideas. Celta have had that idea for a long time. A lot's to do with the kind of players that they sign, and they try to get a manager who can complement those players. I certainly didn't initiate things, although every coach will have their ideas. But the idea of dominating games and taking control of games, yes, that was my idea.
La eliminatoria de Copa, haber perdido la semifinal de Copa el jueves contra el Sevilla, si puede de alguna manera.
Talking about whether losing to Sevilla in the Cup semi-final might condition tomorrow's game. Well, it was an intense semi-final, and although the result of the first leg, they did fight to get back into the game, and those games are always very tiring, and also an emotional drain on the players too. But I don't know to what extent it's important for tomorrow's game. But I know that the Celta players will be very motivated to come to Barcelona, to play at the Camp Nou, and to try to get a positive result.
¿Hasta qué punto, cómo crees que condiciona al Celta que no esté Nolito?
Nolito and how that might affect Celta. It's a shame for them. But he's not been playing for a long time, as Oriana. But they're getting through with similar kind of football. The unit is more important than any individuals. I think they're doing very, very well.
Víctor Matías de la agencia EFE. Yo te quería preguntar si por los jugadores importantes que ante el Valencia no jugaron, si el hecho de que en este tramo de temporada
important players that didn't play against Valencia,
descansar un poco más, es realmente tan importante.
How important is it for those players to have had a rest this week with a tight fixture list coming up? For me, all the players are important. Some play more minutes than others, but they're all important. What we achieve as a complete squad. We all win together, we lose together. That's how a football team works. Some players logically play more minutes and have a greater weight in the squad, but I think the whole team is important. Any coach would see that way.
A lo largo de su historia ha tenido un enorme poder de intimidación hacia el
Barça have always had a very strong historic power to intimidate opponents. What do you think Barça do most to frighten opponents? History, the team, the way they play, records, the trident. What do you think is it that makes other teams feel it's impossible to win? I don't really get that sensation. What games are you watching? I don't think teams are scared of us. I played in a smaller team, or managed a smaller team rather before, and that motivates you. I don't think it's fear. I think you really want to go out and hurt teams. I don't really get that feeling. Perhaps that's a question to ask opponents rather than myself. I don't really get that sensation.
Sí, Xavi Soler de l'Esportiva de Catalunya. Hace unos cuantos partidos que un sector del Camp Nou reclama.
A few games ago, they were talking about a section of the crowd for more voicey supporters to sort of lead the cheering, and whether you would support that idea. Yes, I would. The more the crowd root for the players, so much the better. Especially through difficult moments of games, we really need the crowd. The crowd do that already, but there's always room for improvement. The grada jove, as they call it, would be a fantastic thing. The more support we have, then the better.
Hola, mister. Xavi Hernández para el diario Marca. Una de las características del Celta.
One of the characteristics of Celta against Barca has been deactivating the trident.
Well,
because they're a team that creates a lot of pressure, that cut down the links between the forwards, and even though we've got very good forwards, we need to get the ball to them in good conditions. So yes, it's kind of related, but it's not our fault, it's not their fault. It's a team that really does create difficulties. Unfortunately, there are lots of teams that play like that, and we've generally managed to resolve those situations against Celta. We didn't last time, but hopefully tomorrow we can.
Del diari Dicen. Què creus que ha perdut el Celta amb la venda d'Augusto Fernández, un jugador que...
Augusto Fernández being sold and how that may have affected Celta, particularly looking back at the previous game. I don't like to single out players. He was an important player. He was when I was there too. A leader. He was. He's a physical, strong character player who gets his ideas across to his other players, so he's an important absence. But they have some young players coming through that they've signed this season. I think they're one of the teams that does the best on the transfer market. They've got a very good sports direction doing that job, and they've brought in players like Borja and Was. Players that can do similar things, not the same as before. Obviously, each player is different. But Celta are a side that can always get over the players that they lose or sell or get injured.
Hola Luis, buenos días. David Ibáñez de Mediaset Sport. Son muchos los aficionados del Barça que dicen a Neymar que renueve, que se quede en el Barça.
That Neymar should stay because this is the best club for him to be at.
¿Tú también crees que
and become the number one in the world? Do you also think Barca is the best club for him to stay at? I've just lost my voice. That's something I've answered a lot of times before. I don't want to waste my energy answering it again.
Hola Luis, Tiago Arantes de ESPN Brasil. El equipo de Berizzo es un equipo, como has dicho, que le gusta jugar, le gusta...
Talking about Celta, a team that likes to put on a lot of pressure.
Independiente de los resultados de los partidos, ¿te gusta
Regardless of the results, do you like playing a team that likes to try to play football or a team that likes to defend? What do you prefer to play against? It depends a bit on what we're doing ourselves. If a team is creating a lot of pressure up front, sometimes that opens things up at the back for us, but there's also a risk. If they can collect the ball near the goal, so it all depends on how the different situations unfold. So we've done well against tightly defensive teams. We've done well against teams that like to attack. It all depends on the way the game goes. Okay, thank you very much. Around about 10:30.